Hey everyone, welcome back to this another video of Kubernetes Crash Course series. In the last video, we learned how Kubernetes work behind the scenes, its architecture, and why do we even need Kubernetes. Now it's time to get our hands dirty. In this video, I'll show you how to set up Minikube on Windows using something called WSL2. If you are on Mac or Linux, you don't need to worry about WSL. You can just run the commands on your terminal and you should be good to go. But for Windows, there are some other installations and configurations that we need to do. And because I'm on Windows machine, I'll do the same as well. But for Mac and Linux user, it should be straightforward. So before moving on, let's understand what exactly is Minikube. So Minikube is a tool that lets you run Kubernetes cluster on your own local machine, on your own PC. It's like a small version of Kubernetes, perfect for learning and testing. You don't need any cloud account or credit card to sign up, just use your laptop. It runs inside a virtual environment and you can use it to try out all Kubernetes features like deployments, parts, secrets, services, config maps. So this tool is very handy if you're just starting with Kubernetes as a beginner and you want to learn how this actually works instead of installing it in a cloud provider and then paying for it. So that's what we're going to do in this video. Now, before moving, we obviously have some restrictions. So if you see or requirements for your Minikube, so you need 2 CPUs or more, 2 GB of free memory, 20 GB of free disk space, internet connection, and obviously a runtime, container runtime for your Minikube. I personally prefer Docker, but you can install Podman, VirtualBox, anything. But for the sake of this tutorial, we are sticking to Docker. So we do need to install Docker in our system as well. Now for Windows user, we need to install WSL2. So we'll do that. If you're on a Mac or Linux, you can skip the next few minutes because this will only be for Windows user. So if you're on a Windows, open up your terminal and type the command. So I'm gonna open my PowerShell as administrator. Let me bring this screen here. Okay, when you're here, you have to type command WSL install. This will install WSL. If you don't know what WSL is, it's just a Windows subsystem for Linux. So it creates like a subsystem of Linux within your PC, so you can do all the things that you are able to do in Linux within your Windows. So it's really handy tool and it makes our life much more easier. So install this. Once you do this, it will install all the packages. If you're on Windows 11, it should be smooth enough. No errors, nothing at all. Once you're done with this, it will ask you to reboot your system. And once you do that, it should be good. Now, I already have a WSL installed, so I'm not going to do that. But once you restart your computer, if you come here and type Ubuntu, because Ubuntu is the default subsystem it will install. So once you come to your screen, open up Ubuntu, it will open a Linux terminal for you. So let me get the Linux terminal. This is my Linux terminal, and you can already see that it looks exactly like Linux terminal. If I do sudo, you can see all the commands, so it's working. Now, first thing, when you will start for the very first time, it will ask you to create your username and password. So you can type anything you want, and password you need because obviously when you run sudo command, it needs administrator permission. So it will ask you to type your password. So you need password for that. But once you're opening this terminal for the first time, you have to do sudo apt update to update all the packages and sudo apt upgrade -y. So run these commands. As you see, it's asking for my password. So let me enter my password. So this will update these packages for you as well. Now that we already have a subsystem and we already have a Linux terminal to work with, next step is to install Docker. So I'm going to click the link here. Now this is Docker driver for starting Minikube, but we want the Docker itself. So run this here. And because we are in Ubuntu, first you have to do Docker desktop, and Docker desktop automatically detects which WSL you are using if you're on Windows, obviously, and it does all the configurations according to that. So you don't have to do anything, just install by clicking here. I already have a Docker running, so I don't need to, but for Windows user, you have to come here and click on this link and get the Docker installed. For Mac and Linux user, it's straightforward. Just go ahead and download and start your Docker environment. Now, if I come in my terminal and type Docker, you can see that I can see all the options that I can run with Docker command. That means I already have a Docker installed. So if I do Docker images list, or sorry, Docker image list actually, and you can see the repository tag and your image, whatever image you have created. Right now, I haven't created anything at all with Docker. That's why it's empty. But once we start creating images, it will tell us that. So if you have come this far, you already have a Docker and WSL installed if you're on Windows. For Mac and Linux, as usual, straightforward. Now we will start working with actual thing where we need a kubectl. So kubectl is basically how we interact with our Kubernetes cluster. As I told you in last video, we interact to our Kubernetes cluster using kube API server, and how we interact is using kubectl CLI command. So we need to install those things, and then we need to install Minikube to run the cluster locally. So first thing first, I have my commands here ready, and don't worry, I'll give you these commands in the description or maybe in the pinned comment. So don't worry about that. But all you have to do is just copy paste those and install the. Now another thing that we need to install is kubectl before installing Minikube and starting our cluster. We need to install kubectl so that we can interact with our APIs. So here it says to interact with your cluster, you need kubectl installed, and we'll click on the documentation link. And because we are using WSL for everything, so we will install kubectl on Linux, even though for Windows user, if you're on Windows, still do this because that's the way I will choose. Because I already have a WSL installed and I'll run everything within the same terminal. So I'll click on the link. We already have the command, and my architecture is same only. So I'll get this command, paste it here. Once it's done, and this is if you want to download specific version, I think 1.33 is the latest, or 1.34, I don't know. But if you want to install the specific version, you can specify the version. I've downloaded whichever is the latest one. Next, we have to validate the binary. So I'm gonna select this. Oops. And paste this here. Once this is done, let's validate this. And we are seeing OK. That means it's done. We have 0 fails. That means no check has failed, and we are good to go. Now the actual installation of kubectl, we have downloaded the binary. Now it's time for installing that. I think that should be good. And now let's check the version of our kubectl. So it's 1.33.3. I think that's the latest one, and customized version is 5.6.0. We will not talk about customized for now. We'll talk about this later, but we have kubectl installed. So I think everything is good to go. And we can now go and install Minikube and start our server or cluster in this case. Now, even for installing Minikube, I'll use my Ubuntu or WSL. So I'm gonna open a new tab here, and this one, maybe not this. Let's use this one. Yeah. And we already have the commands here. So let me just copy these and run one by one. I'll wait for it to finish. Now, once this is done, I'm gonna install the Minikube. Ask for my password because it's a sudo command. Once I enter the password, it's installed. Now, if I do Minikube, sorry, Minikube start, it's going to preload some of the things that it needs to run those cluster. So once that's done, we will have our cluster ready. So let's wait for that. Okay, this is done. It has pulled the required image for the Minikube from the hub and installed or started the Minikube, and our Minikube, I think, is up and running now. So if I go here, clear all this, if I do kubectl, see, I see all the options that I can do. So if I do kubectl get pods, A. Okay, so it is running. Now you can see that these are the pods that are already running within my cluster for basic configuration. So you can see my API server is running, my control manager is running, scheduler is running, Minikube itself is running, and core DNS. So these are the pods, or these are the services it needs to run this Minikube local cluster, and it's already running. That means if you are here right now, you have your Minikube installed, it's up and running, you have your Kubernetes or kubectl up and running. So for now, everything is smooth enough and good to go. Now, Minikube has some amazing features as well. So if you do kubectl get nodes, nodes is basically the computer machine that it's using to run those services. So right now, Minikube is running, and roles are control plane, and age is basically how long it's been running, and then obviously the version. Now, one thing about Minikube is that you can visualize these things as well. So it has a visual dashboard where you can see your pods, your deployments, your services that are running within your Kubernetes cluster. So if you do Minikube dashboard, oops, it should be Minikube dashboard. Obviously, it will install that image and or pull the image from Docker Hub and then install it. So we have to wait. Once we have that installed, it's running the service on port 39829. So we'll click on this link and you can see the dashboard here. So this is the amazing dashboard that we get. So if you click on deployments, we have all the deployments here. Right now we have nothing, but this is the pod. This is where you can see all your replica sets. This is where you can see your ingress and other things as well. Now, once we have our actual application running, we will talk about all these things that you see here. What are cron jobs? What are config maps, jobs, parts, events, ingress? We will talk about all those things. So if you don't know what they mean right now, that's fine, because this is just a starting video tutorial. We will get to know each of these things in much more detail and how they work. And with that, that's it. We have just set up a Minikube with Kubernetes on our local machine for Windows using WSL2. So right now, what you see, this is your personal Kubernetes playground. You can do anything. And from the next video, we'll deploy our first application inside this cluster and understand how Kubernetes really work behind the scenes. Once again, don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss it. If you found this helpful anyway, hit that like button. And if you get stuck anywhere, drop a comment. I will read and reply to everyone. So once again, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you all in the next video.